Hi guys, welcome to tonight's marathon. We are going through some CAPE Environmental Science Unit 1 questions. This one speaks to the first part of the syllabus. It says, Figure 2 is an incorrect representation of the biological organization in the environment. And here they have the organization. They have ecosystem first, then they have species, then they have community, and then they have biosphere. So that is the organization. Now they want us to rearrange it and put the correct arrangement. So what should be at the lowest level? Type in the chat. So look in the chat. I am commenting the answer. So at the lowest, we have species. Yes. Then we have communities. It should have been population, but population is not there. So we will go for species, communities. Then we have ecosystem and biosphere. So that is the correct arrangement. So the answer for this is in the chat. In addition to this, they want us to define any two terms in figure 2. So going into the environmental science examination, you want to familiarize yourself with your ecosystem or your ecology vocabulary rather, right? These are some terms you want to familiarize yourself with. So let's define all of them. All right? So let's start with ecosystem. So what is an ecosystem? Anybody want to attempt that one in the chat? So an ecosystem, what is it? It is a community of all the physical, the biotic and the abiotic aspects of the environment, right? Let's check in the chat there. What's next to define? We have species. What is the right definition for species? It is a group of organisms that can interbreed and produce viable offspring or offsprings. That is species. All right, next we have community or communities. A community is a group of interacting organisms that may be of the same species or not, sharing a common habitat. And then next we have the biosphere, and that's the region of the Earth's surface that is occupied by living organisms. That is the biosphere. Now, what are some other terms that we need to cover going into the examination? Right? Habitat, community, biotic, abiotic, biodiversity, pioneer species, succession, and the different types of succession, primary versus secondary, the trophic level, the different organisms found in the trophic levels, food web versus food chain, feeding relationships, niche, biome, those are some terms we want to familiarize ourselves with. Going into the examination, you can be given any one of those terms to define. See, this one says distinguish between a niche and a habitat. Anybody want to attempt that one in the chat? Awesome job. Love the answers in the chat. Awesome. So I have the definition for ecosystem. I have the definition for species. We're also looking at the definition, or sorry, the difference between a niche and a habitat. How would you answer that one? So what is a habitat? So a habitat is a place where the organisms live, right? That's the habitat. What about the niche? So the niche is the specific role that is played by the organism in an ecosystem. So that those are not the differences. Mind you, these are their definitions, right? What is different about the habitat and the niche? Anybody can attempt that in the chat. So don't use definitions to distinguish between two words. What is different about them? Tavon, awesome. Awesome answer. But you're using definitions. Here, I see another answer from Dom. It says, a niche is the full range of physical and biological conditions in which the organisms will and the way it uses these conditions. Good job. How would you contrast that to the habitat? How about the habitat is not species specific? Many species can occupy the same habitat, while the niche is species specific and it only supports a single species, right? That could be a viable answer. I am posting that in the chat as we speak. All right, so no, we don't want to use definitions for distinguishing. We want to look for differences and cite these differences in order to come out with the difference. All right, for number 3, it says some organisms effectively catch their prey because their bodies are the same color as the vegetation in which they hide. How does the mechanism of evolution account for this adaptation? Let me see how much mark this is. This is 6 marks. How would you attempt this question? How would you attempt this? So first, you would definitely need to define some terms here, right? What is evolution? What is adaptation? How does both of them work together? Let me see in the chat how you would have answered this. All right, so you're doing an awesome job in the chat there, Dom. Says adaptation is the process of change by which an organism or species become better adapted to its environment. Awesome. And he says evolution is, hold on, reading his definition for evolution. Awesome. So he defined adaptation, he defined evolution. So how do they work together? So we could talk about adaptation through evolution. The species they modify their phenotypes in ways that permit them to succeed in the environment. Right? We could talk about that and use this same example. So Tavon says, so adaptation is a process where an organism is able to withstand changes in its environment by adjusting to these changes, whether genetically or physically. Awesome. Awesome. Let's go through as many questions as possible. All right, number 4, guys. By the way, you ensure that you are graphically inclined rather, because the paper graph is a must. Like a graph or a table or something of the sort is a must for the NVI paper. So familiarize yourself with your graphing skills. Remember to put on your title. Remember to your axis and all of those lovely stuff, because the graph is kind of heavyweight. It carry a lot of marks and it's a sure thing. All right. So this is distinguishing between a food chain and a food web. And we're explaining why most food webs do not have more than 3 or 4 levels. That is your next task. Let me see the answers in the chat. Food chain versus food web. And why most food webs do not have more than 3 or 4 levels. We are still in the first part of the syllabus, by the way. All right, so let's check the chat. So checking the chat, you guys are coming up with some lovely answers here, but bear in mind that we say we are not using definitions to distinguish. Distinguish means to provide differences, right? So don't use your definition to define. Yes, you can use it, but ensure you put something that is astounding to say this is why it is different. All right, so let me see some of these answers. A food chain depicts the single flow of energy between ecosystems, between organisms within an ecosystem, and a food web is a network. All right, so that is a cool way of using the definition plus the difference. Good job, Raymond. Good job, Sue Lisa. Good job, Dom. You guys are awesome with it, right? So as long as I put in the linear direction that represents the flow of energy for food chain, and then food web, the different interconnections, that is a good difference. It says so you're doing one. All right. Any questions? So another way you can put it is that in a food chain, the organism at the higher trophic level feeds on a specific organisms in the lower trophic level. While for a food web, an organisms of higher trophic level has access to more members of the lower trophic level. Right? All right, let's see what Tavon is saying. Also, food webs do not have more than 4 levels because one organisms can have more than one source of food. All right, there is another major reason. Another major reason why most food webs do not have more than 3 or 4 trophic level. What is happening? Why? So, looking in the chat, I'm seeing different answers like competition, apex predator. Not necessarily. So the answer that I'm looking for speaks to um energy or biomass being lost. So as we go from trophic level to trophic level, we have a loss, right? So that's why we don't have them extending to more than 3 or 4 levels. Yes, Tavon, it has something to do with energy. Good job. So ensure you capture that. Cool. All right, guys. So moving on, we're getting into the part of the syllabus that you guys don't like, population studies. Yes, Kiara and Dom. Yes. So look at the graph and name the type of population diagram. Mikhail says, is environmental science a ripoff of biology? Hmm, maybe. So look at the diagram, guys. What type of population diagram is this? All right, expansive population pyramid. Look at the diagram. Is this for a developing or a developed country? Awesome. Developing country. Awesome. All right. How do you expect the population of the country represented to grow in the future? So it would be the 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 pyramid would look more rectangular with the young and middle-aged people representing the smaller populations and many more elderly people at the top part. Are we agreeing? Here are some vocabulary words for population studies. Total fertility rate, infant mortality rate, replaced level fertility. Let's quickly jump on those. Let's quickly jump on those. one, guys. So total fertility rate, infant mortality rate replaced level fertility rate. Awesome. So Dom says total fertility rate refers to the ability of a woman to conceive a child during her childbearing years. Are we agreeing with that? Infant mortality rate is the rate at which infants die within a country. Agreeing with that again? And then replacement level fertility. What is that one? By the way, Dom, you are on a roll tonight. Dom is just clearing out the chat for all of us. He is getting a grade 1. He's getting a grade 1 in Envy. Everybody here getting a grade 1, by the way. But Dom is just helping us out tonight. Big up yourself, Dom. So Tavon says replacement level fertility is the amount of children a couple need to have to replace themselves. Are we agreeing? Dominique, awesome. So you could just add from one generation to the next, and then you are correct. Awesome job, Tavon. Awesome job. It's the brightness for me. Look at that. This question now. It says table 1 provides demographic data for Barbados, St. Kitts and Nevis. And then based on the data provided, we need to find out which country will have a faster growing population. And we need to explain our answer. So Barbados, the mortality rate is much lower than St. Kitts and Nevis. So which one will have a faster growing population? So St. Kitts and Nevis, why? What would you have written there for 5 marks? Wow. Barbados. Which one are you picking? Infant mortality rate per 1,000. What are you saying? Barbados. Why? For those who say St. Kitts, explain. For those who say Barbados, explain. I agree with you, Tavon. I agree. Anybody else agreeing with Tavon? So it is Barbados because it has a lower infant mortality rate than St. Kitts. So they would have a faster growing population. Consumerism. What is consumerism? All right, so Dom sort out consumerism for us in the chat. Tell about Dom, you know. Dom are gonna make all of us get a grade one. Not me. Already finished Envy years ago. All right, so table two shows the per capita carbon dioxide emissions in 1996 for North America, Central America, and the Caribbean. So you're going to suggest three reasons for the difference in per capita carbon dioxide emission between the regions identified in table two. So they want three difference for the per capita carbon dioxide. So North America, there's way more per capita carbon dioxide emissions than Central America and the Caribbean. So what could be three reasons for this? North America being more industrialized. Big up Tavon. Urbanization within North America. Big up Kiara. Dom saying that the government of Central America and the Caribbean could have different rules relating to per capita or legislations. All right, Dom. And then Shori says North America is a more developed country. All acceptable answers. Make sure when you get to know grade one and you come back, come tell me. I'm predicting it. What is meant by the term poverty? What is poverty? So it's 3 marks. So the inability of people to meet economic, social, and other standards of well-being. All right. Good job, Dom. Good job, Shori. Their state of not being able to support oneself economically or financially. All right. Good job, Tavon. So I love how you guys tying in the three aspects there. Let's finish this paper, guys. It says, using this table, we need to describe the trend between per capita GNP and the percentage annual increase in the population size. First of all, type in the chat, what is GNP? What is it? Gross national product. What is that? So ensure you know your terms, GNP versus GDP. So what is GNP? And we are going to describe the trend between per capita GNP and the percentage annual increase in the population size. So gross national product, a country's source of income to support its people. Putting it together properly, it's an estimate of the total value of all the goods and services produced by a country in a given year. That is GNP. Let me try to type that in the chat. And Sitavon rescuing us there with the definition. All right, so go ahead and speak about the trend. All right, let me type my answer in the chat. So you're not explaining anything, for part one, you're just describing the trend. So how would you describe this trend in the table? So Dom say as per capita increase, national increase decrease. Are we agreeing with Dom? That's a beautiful way to summarize it. That's your easy one mark there. Can anyone suggest a trend for this? Good job, Tavon, as natural increase, decrease, GNP increase. All right. Can anyone suggest a trend for this? A reason behind the trend, sorry. All right, so Tavon is speaking to development. A reason would be because the countries, as you go down the table, they are more developed. Yes, they are more developed, right? And their gross national product, which we just defined as the estimate of their total values of goods and service produced in a given year, it is increasing, right? So there's more money, there's more jobs, they can support the population, right? So when you subtract the birth rate from the death rate, the natural increase is decreasing, right? Let's see. All right, good job, Wordy. Good job. Let's aim to finish this paper. think this is the last one. Natural resource. Everybody can attempt this one. What is natural resource? Type your answers in the chat. Natural resource. What is the definition? And then in the meanwhile, we are going to say which of these two, forest or beaches, which one of them are renewable or non-renewable. So Dom says a natural resource is anything that can be used in the production of goods and services that people consume naturally. Piper says natural resources that are things made by God. That is a funny definition, but accepted. Shori, Tavan, you guys, trust me, I'm telling you, all of you guys getting a grade one, I can feel it. All right, so with that definition for 2 marks, you think you can tell between these two, which is non-renewable. By the way, this is a common question, past paper question. What is the difference between renewable versus non-renewable resource? Good job, Kiara. So, two things we're looking for in the chat: renewable versus non-renewable resource, and we're classifying forest and beaches. What are they? All right, so checking in the chat. Um, Shori, good job with renewable resource there. Dom, good job. Kiara, good job. Awesome. And then Tavan is saying forests would be renewable because they can be replenished by reforestation, or if they're allowed to replenish on their own. All right, I am accepting that, Tavan. And Shori is finishing up non-renewable resource for us there. What about beaches? What type of resource is beach? Non-renewable. Accepted. Accepted. Let's finish this paper. It says here in the chat here, loving the answers. Awesome. So fish stock in coastal fisheries are an important natural resource in many Caribbean countries. Explain what is meant by the expression to overharvest coastal fisheries. So what does that mean? To overharvest coastal fisheries. Guys, make sure you're not looking in your notes, make sure all of these definitions and these answers are coming from your brain, because you're gonna sit the exam. So you have to ensure that you're talking it out of your mind or out of your brain. You're not looking in your notes. Are we cheating here tonight? Awesome, Kiara. Awesome, Dom. Natural brains. Awesome, Tavan. I tell you, this is the grade one crew. So, what does it mean to over harvest coastal fisheries? And we're outlining 3 environmental or social impacts resulting from the overharvest of coastal fisheries. So, overharvesting means to harvest a resource to the point of diminishing returns. So that means we're over harvesting the aquatic organisms in such a way that they won't have a time to replenish themselves. Right? Dom said this question burst in my brain. Really? Good job, Kishana. Good job, Tavan, Kiara, Shori. Listen, I said this is the grade one crew. So, what are the impacts then? Impacts on the environment or so on the society? What would be the impacts of over harvesting on the environment? Environment is so easy. What comes to your mind? It's more easy than societal. Yes, Shori. So, Dom, on the environment, reduced supply of fish, right? So you're over harvesting the fish shiz. So, they wouldn't have enough time to produce offspring. So you'd have a depletion there. Good job. So reduced supply of fish. Kara says environment impact could look like the degradation of coral reefs. What else? Limited food source. I would link that to reduce supply of fish. Great job. Loss of biodiversity. Put it that way. Decrease aquatic population. All right, Devontae. Future generation have access to the name resource. Great thinking, Tavan. Anybody linking it to the society? Species diversity decrease. Disruption of food chain and food web. So you guys still sticking to the environmental impact. What about social impacts? All right, guys, we still have 2 more questions to go. What is meant by the term biodiversity? Kristan come in with the social one here. He says no income for people who use fishing as a income source. So good job, Christian, in wrapping up that question. Number 11, what is meant by the term biodiversity? Good job, Shori. Biodiversity, what is that? And then somebody else could take on the part that says, explain how conserving biodiversity is important for maintaining the water resources of the Caribbean. So, how is conserving life important for maintaining water resources? So, good job with biodiversity, Dominique. Good job, Kiara. Good job, your 3 marks there, guys. So, how would conserving biodiversity be important? So, you guys remember that aspects in the syllabus that speaks to intrinsic versus extrinsic, right? So you would revisit there. Biodiversity support water resources, including nutrient cycling in soil and plants, and this process controls the water quality. Let me see these answers in the chat. Right, yes, yes. Kati, this is way back. This is 2003. It's oldies, but it is goodies. Why? Because it cover all the aspects of the syllabus. So we went through everything with this paper, almost everything. All right, is this the last two? These are the last two questions, guys. It says, with reference to natural resource conservation, explain the role of the following in the Caribbean: ethical consideration and aesthetical considerations. Those last two, attempt them. And by the way, this part of the syllabus is where most students don't like the terms, they're not familiarized with. So I suggest that you spend more time on natural resources, because many of us are doing biology, so we don't really have to spend a lot of our time on the first part of the syllabus because it's biology. But this last part, population studies and natural resource, some terms in here that kind of mess you up at times. So spend some time tonight before you go to bed. So ethical considerations versus aesthetical considerations. Aesthetical considerations would be like preserving the resources just because they are beautiful and appealing. Yes, Tavan, you have been reading your text. And Dom says ethical consideration to guide your research, design, and practices. Mm, not necessarily. So it's looking at the moral, the legal obligations in preserving or conserving our environment. Not necessarily Christian. Right. Human has a moral responsibility to preserve the resources because various species has the right to live. Basically a set of principles that guide research practices and design. That's it for Kishana. That's more of a sociological definition. But we're looking. I think Tavan here has the correct one for ethical considerations. All right, guys. That's the end of this paper. Any questions before we go? I wish you all the best. I know you all are going to get grade ones. Ensure that you subscribe to this channel here and you follow our Instagram page. Mine. Yes, I'm going to upload this video. Yes, I will. As soon as we are off. Yes, I'm leaving because I am a teacher and I have to prepare for my classes tomorrow. I am hosting another marathon, but I think the next one is bio. Bio. Just look on the poster. All right, guys. See you later. Um, if you need a tutoring for Envi Unit 2, just hit me up on Instagram. And good luck on your exam. Have a good night. Get some rest now. Bye. You are welcome. Drop your flags in the comments in the chat. I appreciate you all more for joining.